Scoff, back to Emirates FA Cup action against Guiseley. What are your thoughts going into the game?
The FA Cup, obviously from my era, magical. Grandstand come on at 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, football all day. Go out and replicate the match-winning goal. So magical. And it, even now, you know, you get a result, you get one result, you could play, I know it's regionalised, but you could play anybody, anywhere. If you are successful and manage to win 2 or 3 games, oh my gosh, you could play anybody, couldn't you? And it's fantastic. I love the FA Cup. You know what I mean? I think it just really says everything about football, because you can have the best team in the world. You could play them eventually. You know, if you're successful and you have a little bit of luck. And I think it's magical for the fans as well. You know, likewise, they potentially get an opportunity to go to some of the best grounds in the country. But we are at the early stages at the minute, so we just have to. That's what I think about the FA Cup. However, we know we're at the early stages, and it's a matter of trying to get a couple of 3 results and then see what happens then.
You spoke about the FA Cup in general for you. What are your best memories of the FA Cup then?
Not really great memories from the FA Cup. When I was playing non-league, we had a couple of games against league opposition. We played Chelsea in my pro career. So we played Chelsea. We've played at Crystal Palace, Liverpool, Everton. So, but because you don't win the game, you know what I mean. You fall back into it. However, got a couple of great souvenirs and things like that, as you do. At the time, you think, why are you doing that? It's only when you get past it and old that you start reminiscing a little bit. So, you know, just going and playing at some of the best grounds in the world and playing against the best players and trying to prove yourself. And I think that's why it's so fantastic, the FA Cup, that it gives players from every level at times an opportunity to play against one another. And I guarantee you, it's not as easy as you think when you're playing somebody out at top level. But again, they make it difficult because they're prepared to graft as hard as you are, first and foremost, and that's what we try and say to our players. So,
and we've seen that in the first game against Newcastle Town, didn't we? I mean, this club historically has been the lower underdog, the team that plays Chelsea, Man United, Man City, and now kind of boots on the other foot, isn't it? And we have to be wary of that.
Yeah, it is. I also think as well that's expectations brilliant, but we can't control expectation. If the gaffer's really good at that with the players, the only thing we can control is how we are going to approach each game. And Saturday's game is the biggest game of the season. And the reason that is because it's the next one. And he said all along, this is what happens. It don't matter who we got, who might be coming, who this, who that. Next game's the biggest game. Deal with that. Get over the hurdle of that. Deal with any fallout from the game, and then you move on to the next one. But the Oxford City game's irrelevant because the next game is Guiseley, and that's our biggest game, and that's how we've had to try and approach everything this season.
Thoughts on Guiseley then? Obviously another team that are a division below us.
Yeah, very well organised team, side that likes to play a little bit. So we, as we've tried to do all season, have got to match anybody who we play against. Work ethic, endeavour, passion, all the things that we can control, and then hopefully we've got to continue to try and improve in possession. We've done it okay and better than okay in portions of some games, and not so well in other games. So we have to be more consistent in our performances. And again, this is not being critical of anybody. This is just stating fact. You know, if we want to continue to improve, instead of being okay for 25 minutes of a game over the course of the 90 minutes, we need to be better for 30 minutes, then 40, then 50, then and build it up. You know, we're going to get the odd game where we're really well for 70 minutes, and then the next game, you know, it might be a little bit more sporadic that you get your control of the game. So that's what we're trying to improve on, and I think to do that against Guiseley is really important, because, as I said, they're a well organised side. They've got good athletes in the side. And it's a game where, first and foremost, we'll go and compete, and then the other stuff, hopefully, will be good enough on the day.
And I suppose, in many respects, it's the first opportunity for you guys as coaching team to see what the lads are like bouncing back. It was the first defeat of the season. You want to see that bounce back ability, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. You know, fortunately, when we haven't got maximum points before this season, we've come back and put a performance in afterwards. So hopefully that's what we're going to do. But as we said, regardless of what we did in the previous game, it's no real bearing on what we're going to do or how we're going to perform on Saturday. It's just Saturday's the next game, and you want to be, regardless of whether you've won, drawn or lost, as a player, a team, a club, you want to perform better than what you did the previous game. So going back to what I said previously, we've got to do better in each game. So regardless of result, we've got to turn up on Saturday and make sure that we perform better than we've done in the previous 12 games we've played. In the previous 12 games. And try and get longer spells in control of the game. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean in control because we've got the football. We can be in control when the opposition's got the ball by working hard and shuffling them where we need them to go.
Yeah, and obviously 2 weeks ago the gaffer made quite a few changes. He rotated the squad. Is that a consideration for this weekend again?
Yeah, I think the amount of games we've played so far, some of the players have got quite a lot of minutes and some of them have not got as many minutes. It's obviously an opportunity where this month we looked at it, there are going to be a couple of league games, 2 or 3 FA Cup, potentially FA Cup games. So it's an opportunity to try and get some minutes into everybody's legs and make sure come October, when the next sort of portion of games starts, we've got a 18-19 man squad that's all got minutes in the legs, so everybody's fresh, everybody's ready to go. So that's sort of like the thinking behind it. And as we've said, we always knew this week were going to be a clear week, so that's been planned. That were planned pre-season, like the next month's planned. And the month after that, and it's already in place what, in an ideal world, we would like to do. However, we all know the ideal world doesn't happen. Use Newcastle as an example. That potentially were going to be a free week. It finished up being a game because we drew at Newcastle. But then again, you've got to be adaptable. We quickly changed things around, and in the end, probably turned out to be a decent exercise. Bearing in mind, we managed to get ourselves a few goals. We played reasonably well. So, although it may have been seen as a negative, would we wanted to go through the first game? Yes, obviously. However, you can dwell on that. I think what we did really well as a staff and a group and the club, we said, right, next game's on Tuesday. We dealt with it, and we dealt with it really well.
Just finally, an update on the injury situation. Obviously, you've been without Danny Whitehall and Carlton. How are they coming along?
Danny's back in training, but obviously we've got to be mindful that we've got a squad, a decent squad size, but our recruitment this year, what to take players that could play in a couple of 3 positions. It gave us a chance to not have such a bigger squad, 29, 30, where you're dealing with a lot of disappointment every week, purely and simply because you can't involve everybody. With that in mind, going back to the question about Danny and Carlton, we've got to make sure that they're in a better place, or at least a similar place to what they were before they picked the injuries up. So what we're trying to do, obviously Ash and Kieran, they're the experts, or so they tell me. You can leave that bit in. Or so they tell the footballing staff every day. We're the experts, which is brilliant because they are. They're using all the equipment that we've got to make sure that we're hitting all the return to player protocols right, because we're hitting all the parameters that they need to hit. We're making sure they're getting their high speeds in, the distances, D cells, accels, D cells, changes directions, making sure that we're ticking all them boxes off. And in an ideal world, we get them back in a better place than they were before they picked an injury up. So with that in mind, we've also got to make sure that every day that we put in extra load on players, the ideal world is this is the plan, and we will get to this date and everything's great. But every day it's stepping up, and it just depends on what kind of reaction there is to the previous day. So every morning the lads will send the wellnessers in. When they come in, Kieran and Ash will do strength tests with them, whether it be a groin squeeze, jumps. As I said, they're the experts, not me. All things that they do. They've got all the scores from when they were fit, and it's a case of matching them and just making sure that we want them back. Of course we do, but we don't rush them back and then we lose them for another period of time. Will that happen? It might do. However, if we've ticked all the boxes, we know we're going in with a less risk. Yes, there will be contacts, there might be another injury, but we're trying to make sure that when they come back, they're going to be back for a period of time. Will they get injured again? It's football, maybe. So, but the thing is to not get the same injury within 30 minutes of starting the first game back after the injury you've just had. A little bit of a long-winded answer, I know. However, I think I'm just trying to get a picture. It's not a case if you get through Thursday and Friday after you've not trained for a couple of weeks that you're available to play Saturday, because I'm afraid them days are gone.
And just very finally, it's the second time we've spoken to you since you've been back. How much are you enjoying being here?
It's all right. Yeah, no, I love it. Look, know some of the staff anyway, but everybody, get a real feel about everybody pulling in one direction. I know it's a bit sickly and all that, but everybody pulling in the same direction, everybody wanting the same goals. there's a atmosphere around the place, a bubbliness. Everybody's on the same page. Loads of banter going off, and lots of laughing, funny things happening, and people just, everybody getting on, and you know what I mean, like little things. We all sit and eat together all the time, you know. Players, playing staff, media staff, the owners, office staff, everybody, you know what I mean. There's no hierarchy. Obviously there is when you're trying to get something, you know, but we'll leave it at that. But you know what I mean. But there's a real good a family atmosphere. That's probably the best way to describe it. You know what I mean. You get told off by your mum every now and again, which is probably Michelle. Yeah, but you get a cuddle off your dad. You know what I mean?
Which is still Michelle.
Which is Rog, George or Ian. You know what I mean? Or you might get told off your dad. It sounds as though we're in trouble all the time, doesn't it? Not told off, but you know what I mean? Just it's good. It's a real family. It's a real family vibe.